If you know the pentatonic or the blues scale, you can actually play really amazing jazz solos using just those notes. Let me show you how. Now, the pitfall of any scale is, well, it ends up sounding like scales and not music. So it's actually really important which notes we choose to use within those scales in our solos. So I'm gonna play for you a really good example of a jazz blues solo that only uses pentatonics. Here it is. So before we talk about this solo, let's talk about what scales it's actually using. So it's using the minor pentatonic scale, or in this case, C minor pentatonic. Pretty simple, it's root, flat 3, to the 4, to the 5, to the 7, right? And that's the pentatonic scale. Also, we're using what's called the blues scale. I sort of just think of it as a minor pentatonic scale with a sharp 4 in it. So it's like this. Here's the 4, sharp 4. So now we're also using the major pentatonic scale in here. So a C major pentatonic would be So armed with just these scales, which most people actually know these already, we're gonna put together this solo. So the first chord is C7, and so the first line that we play goes. Okay, so again, our note choices really do matter. And so to break up the linear passage of the scale, because at first we're really just walking down the scale. So we're just going, to break it up, we're using this C note right here, right? So we're going down to that low C, and then we're arriving at this F right here, which is the root of the 4 chord, which is F7. Now we're doing that through that sharp 4, that flat 5, however you want to look at it, in the blues scale to get to that F7. So again, the notes that we choose are really important to making a scale actually sound musical. So then we continue the passage with more pentatonic stuff. Now, really important note choice coming up right here, and that's where we play an E natural. We go. Now that comes straight out of the major pentatonic scale, and that E natural is the 3rd of the C7. Okay, now the 3rd of any chord is always a great note to target in your solos because it's really gonna make the chord changes come out. So even just using pentatonic scales, we can still be targeting important chord tones that are really gonna make that sound pop out. And so that's really what makes this first opening line so great and not just sound like pentatonic. So it's, and then we break it up with the surprise, right? There's the chord changes. So whenever you're thinking about using pentatonics, always think still about targeting chord tones within the different chords. So now we're going back to the F7, that's the 4 chord, and it goes, okay, we're just going right up the C minor pentatonic scale. Now, this is important here when we get to the sharp 4 diminished chord, that's F sharp diminished, we are hitting this C note, right? So we are arriving at this C note. Now, that C note is the flat 5 of the F sharp diminished 7th. Again, this is all just notes here coming from the major and minor pentatonic scale, but I'm intentionally landing on that C, that flat 5 of the F sharp diminished, to really drive that home. And then of course we go on to this super bluesy line using the blues scale. Sounds like this. And that's still over top of that F sharp diminished 7th. And again, we have this blue note, that F sharp in this particular case, the sharp 4 of the blues scale, of the C blues scale, that's really working nicely with the F sharp diminished. So, and it resolves to that C7 1 chord right there on a C natural note. So again, using chord tones even within those pentatonics is really making us sound good. And then to get to the sixth chord, the A7, we just play a very simple minor pentatonic idea. Right? Now again, that G note is what we're actually arriving on when we get to that A7. Now the G is actually the flat 7 of the A7. So the 7 is also another really important chord tone to target when you're improvising. It's the 3rd and the 7th, we call these the guide tones, are kind of the most important chord tones of each chord that if we're resolving to those, we're really gonna sound good. Now the last line of this etude is D minor 7, G7, C7. So that's a 2-5-1 into C, arriving at a C dominant 7. And really, it's just bluesy stuff, right? So typically when we're thinking about playing a 2-5-1, we're thinking about, right? We're thinking about 2-5-1 ideas, right? But in this case, it just goes, only C minor pentatonic ideas. So we can also just play pentatonics when we're dealing with a key center, right? We're playing D minor 7, we're playing G7, but C minor pentatonic works over all of that because we're all in the key of C there. But also something to point out as well is we're using different rhythmic concepts here to break up the line and make it more interesting. Like, right? Just that simple makes the line so much more interesting than, of course, just playing eighth notes over top of those chords. In summary, always make sure that you're targeting chord tones when you're playing pentatonics over top of different chords. Always make sure you're breaking up your line with rhythmic variety, and always make sure that you're paying attention to how you can utilize the different kinds of pentatonic scales to fit into those chord tones that you're trying to target. Now, by the way, if you want to learn how to use pentatonics, but with more bebop over top of a minor blues, that could be a really cool next video to explore. So I have that up on the screen right now for you to go check out. We're going to do a minor blues solo, and you'll see some more cool concepts over there. All right, that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this valuable. Like it if you did. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.